So Cormac, what's quiet quitting? What is this?
Well, I was,
This new phenomenon?
it's funny is like, people are just like sending memes to me and links talking about quiet quitting. And I was like, I guess I head down in work mode that I didn't really know that this was a thing.
It's funny when you're like, I'm not aware of this because I'm not doing it.
And which is funny because that was very much the thing is just like, oh, wait, quiet quitting.
Yeah.
At first, I was just like, is it like an Irish goodbye where they just like, hey, I'm not coming into work on Monday, but not telling anybody, and then just just like,
Yeah. So like, let's define it, because this idea, it's not quitting at all, right? It's like, I'm gonna stop hustling is kind of what it is. I'm gonna stop going above and beyond because I want work-life balance. I mean, so this term quiet quitting, I guess, came from somebody's TikTok video. They kind of named it earlier this year, and it's really catching on as a description, a word, whatever you want, a meme, whatever you want to call it. But it's like very much about rejecting hustle culture and therefore burnout. I think that's kind of the idea.
right, right. It's funny because then people send me these memes, and then I happen to notice the conversation going on the Andre Architect page where people on Facebook, and they're talking about quiet quitting, and I was just like, the one of the comments that stood out to me was this. Basically, it was just like quiet quitting, bah humbug kind of thing. It was almost like, and I can't for the life of me, I can't remember, but I remember the gist of what the comment was, is that they basically said, whatever happened to, it's just like quiet quitting. That's a joke. Whatever happened to actually just doing the job that needs to get done and doing, and just working as long as it takes.
Very much an architecture mentality, not just architects, but yeah.
Yeah. And that was really it. I was just like, what an architect's response.
Yes, totally. That was unexpected.
It was totally, it was just like, okay, so here you are. I mean, and there was a lot of people who were very much in support of that concept. It's just because, like, as we've sort of talked, it's like, maybe we have it wrong, where this old school way of thinking about it is just like, whatever happened to just doing the job and getting it done, and just shutting up and blah blah blah,
Paying your dues and
exactly.
all
I
the good
mean,
stuff.
and it's just like the way that we have conversations with clients. If you're doing above and beyond what you're contracted to do for them, you're basically pissing away your own money, your own profits. You're giving it away for free. And that's the same as, somebody who is working in a firm, because yeah, we may work 80 hours but only get paid for 40. So the question is why are why are we working for 80? I mean, why are we working 80?
Yeah, this reminds me of Andrew Maynard's early blog post that I remember reading. He's an Australian architect, very well. I mean, it's a great firm. They do great work. When he started his career, though, it was very much like he kept the employee handbook on his desk. And I think we've talked about this. I mean, we have been doing this podcast a long time, so I don't remember entirely, but this was probably like, 7 or 8 years ago that we talked about this. And it was like, here's what it says in the employee manual, and this is what I'm going to do. This is the rules you hired me under. This is what I agreed to and what you agreed to, period. I'm not going to do the all-nighters. I'm not going to do the above and beyond kind of stuff, because he respected himself, right? I think that it was more, it wasn't like a big, F you, I don't respect you or anything like that. But it was like, you are going to respect the rules. Both of us are going to respect the rules that you wrote as the corporation, right? And it was like the shock and awe that the establishment had over that kind of a perspective was palpable, to say the least. So very interesting now that here we are again, and now there's like a name and a meme, and of course it's just attributed to Gen Z because they're the only ones, they're these kids these days, right? But basically it's about reprioritizing work-life balance, right? That's the idea here, is that I respect myself, and I have boundaries, and you should respect those too, because that's the rule set that we both agreed to when employment was established. It is. I saw somebody giving advice this week on Twitter for somebody else to quiet quit.
Yeah, so so here I'm gonna quote one of these. My thoughts on quiet quitting have always been the same. If someone isn't producing, replace them so that they can find some place that they would rather work or not work. I
I think that there's confusion over they're jumping to conclusions by hearing that term.
Exactly. So yeah, I was a little confused. Well, I wasn't really confused. It was just like, okay, I haven't heard the term quiet quitting before. What does that mean? And when I read it, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. I mean, why would you? I was like, I don't necessarily know if I would frame it as quiet quitting. It literally is setting boundaries. It isn't
It's not about
laziness.
laziness. Yeah.
Exactly. It isn't about laziness. It isn't about a lack of professionalism. It is about saying, hey, what if we need to work 80 hours? Then maybe you should restructure this particular project so we don't have to work 80 hours. Maybe we should stop saying to a client, yes, I can get it done in half the time by working my people double time. Things like that. And this is actually one of the many things that has contributed to this. What was it? The Great Resignation, as well as looking at all of these job postings and seeing tons and tons of job postings, because when you see these little videos and stuff, and it's just like, this one was like, this Gen Zer was interviewing, and they're just like, tell me why we should hire you. And they're just like, no, no, no. Tell me why you should hire me. Why are there so many openings? Why, are people, like quitting? I mean, tell me the story. And he's like, they put the interviewee on like the defensive, and and it's funny because it's not really that far from the accurate truth of what you should be doing. It's like, why do you have so many openings? I mean, are you taking on too many projects that you can't handle, and so you're trying to basically go out there and pick up as many people with a breath and a pulse as you possibly can, and dump more and more people at the project, whether they're qualified or not, just so that you can continue to keep asking for more and more projects?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. I think that it should be about rejecting this hustle culture and burnout more than anything. And so when you talk about, people should just be happy that they even have these jobs, like that kind of mentality, then, and getting rid of people who go find somewhere else to kind of work or not work. Right. I don't know that you're creating a place where people are finding meaning in the work they're doing. And I get it. Like, that's not the easiest thing in the world to do. And maybe you've got, years or decades or more of history of not providing that for employees either. Right. So once the boat's in motion, it's kind of hard to turn it as well when you have a big ship. So what are you doing to create a place that people want to work at and want to do, are excited to go work at? Let's just frame it like that. Because what we're talking about here with quiet quitting it's the opposite of that, right? It's like people are just clocking in and clocking out because they're not excited about going to work, or the work that they're doing, or the projects that they're on, or the people they have to work with, or, there's a lot of different things there.
well, I totally agree with you 100%, except for, let me add a little bit to that. Even if you're excited about the job that you do and the work that you do and the product that you're producing, in our case, buildings, does it necessarily mean that you should give more time? I mean, we're in a culture right now where we're overworking ourselves, under living, and I don't know if that's a term, it is now. And the as we've talked about on numerous occasions, the life work balance is so out of whack that all people are trying to do is reclaim a little bit of their life, and honestly set the boundaries of saying, yeah, I'll have no problem with giving you some extra hours here, extra hours there, if it's rewarding and fulfilling, and then I'm actually doing, something that I enjoy and we enjoy, and we're producing something fantastic. But
Well, or compensated for in some way, right? Like this actually just shows the slippery slope that architecture has been on for such a long time by creating these bad habits and building them into the way that we practice architecture. Right? This is the status quo of like, this is how you do it. You spend all the time that there possibly is working on the project before it's due. That's how you do it, right? And everybody now, well, not everybody, but groups and groups of people are realizing like that's not sustainable. That's why we have the Great Resignation. I'm going to make a new term, the Great Resignation, and then there's quiet quitting, and there's mental health problems in the profession, and there's toxic education cultures, and there's toxic work cultures, and there's the threats of unionization, and there's all of these kind of cultural and social things that have specifically to do with architecture, and at least in this context, and it's very much like systemic issues. Like these are not just, and I guess where I'm thinking one of the biggest breakdowns here is that when we've talked about this before, like you've got to pay your dues because I had to pay mine, that kind of a mentality. We're seeing it now with loan forgiveness too, right? Like, oh my God, we can't give people that money for free because I had to pay mine, right? It's like there's so much of this mentality in the profession, which is, I suffered and now you get to suffer too. And that is, those are the people complaining about all these issues in that way.
Yeah, please don't get me started on that topic because
okay,
I have a lot of
change the subject.
I have a lot of opinions about that. So let me kind of like read another quote, or at least a clip of a quote. The full quote's very lengthy, but this particular one is right on par with what you and I were just kind of talking about. To me, quiet quitting is symptomatic of an unhealthy office culture and job-minded rather than career-minded people and organizations. If you're quiet quitting, you might as well real quit and go work for an organization that's a better workplace cultural fit. Which, yes, but that still doesn't necessarily fix the overall systemic problem in, they're talking about unhealthy office culture. I think you and I we know enough people to know that it's not just a little bit here, a little bit there. It is a very profession-wide systemic problem.
And what's funny is these articles are not specific to architecture at all, but we're totally making it that way.
Absolutely. Because there's like 200 plus comments on just the Entree Architect website or Facebook page that is very much specifically about quiet quitting within the profession. And it is so interesting to see the back and forth between these conversations that are really talking about basically maintaining status quo. It's like, why are you not trying to give a little bit extra? I mean, don't you want to learn? Don't you want to like further your career? And isn't this part of like your professional development, your professional growth? Like to overwork and burn myself out? Yeah, that's a career goal of mine.
Well, I think that's one of the things that I come back to is everybody should be as miserable as I am. Like that's the vibe that you're sending off. And wow, that's, what do you expect to happen? And you should be happy you have a job, kind of a thing. And okay, I get it. Like finding a doer is actually difficult. I see this, like I'm a doer. I see that I see it in my kids. I see it all over the place. People are unwilling to do things and I'm willing to do them. And so, oh my gosh, like I posted this, I retweeted a tweet on Twitter the other day, and it was this paper making. Have you seen this video? I'll have to find a link to it because this process of making paper, seriously, it seemed like it took 5 years to make these sheets of paper by hand, like crushing the pulp, like growing the plants, crushing the pulp, running it through this, filtering it through that, redoing it again, cutting it up, smashing it, cutting it, and it was just like, and it was so funny because it was a TikTok video posted on Twitter. So it was a long video, like 5 minutes plus. It's a long video nowadays. Oh, I sound old. But it's like you watch the whole thing and it's kind of interspersed with these shots of cats like laying around. It was hilarious. And my comment on this video was, I am the guy making the paper and my kids are the cats, right? Like that is the general mentality towards work. So it is hard to find doers. Within the doer mentality is more of an intrinsically motivated person, right? And if somebody is not naturally an intrinsically motivated person, or they don't have that self-awareness, I'm sure it's more complicated than I'm making it out to be, but they're not going to become one, period. Like they're not wired like that. And so they need to do other kinds of jobs. And so I've always wondered, like in a firm, can we just be honest and say there's some people here who are just clocking in and clocking out who should just work on the portable projects on schools because they're the most boring, but they make a lot of money and we're going to use that money to feed the machine and keep the business running. And those that are the doers, the intrinsically motivated, the people with a vision can work on more meaningful stuff to them and figure out the next business model that's going to work in this firm. Because we can't just keep doing that soul crushing, the thing that just drives morale down. Like, but what's funny is there are a lot of people who are just perfectly happy doing that kind of work. So can we just be honest about that and say like, no, you're going to do this. Here's the expectations for that kind of work. It's important to the company. It's important to the whole endeavor. It's important to ensuring that these other things can happen, right? And then there's this whole other, I don't even want to call it like a class, but that's kind of how it's actually bad to think of it as a class, but it's like there's another category of people. And I think what I see happen a lot is this confusion that everybody is like me. And we've talked about this a lot on this show before too, right? Everybody, not only they're not like me, but they should be like me. And that's not possible. Like you have to work really hard to find the people that are going to be like you in air quotes, if you want them to work like you in air quotes, right?
Well, but then I always say, analyze you. If you're the person who, say, is looking down upon these people who are quiet quitting, who are, basically giving you that effective.
What are you modeling, right?
What are you modeling? You're basically saying, hey, be like me, somebody who doesn't plan very well, who has to overwork to
till the last minute,
to stay on par with everything. And if I'm always the person who, like, what is the one thing that engineers hate the most? Architects who continue to keep designing and they can never keep up with like the constant changes and stuff. And so, we always say, okay, well, to be able to avoid that, we're going to do like a model freeze and we'll, send you off this and you work on that. But then, we continue to keep working on it above and beyond the model freeze, which, then always gets us called out as, oh, you guys know that you're not coordinated. Well, that is just a micro view of the big problem. And so if you zoom out to that macro view and you look at the profession wide, you're like, okay, well, if you're not planning around a project where I'll give you a good example. I have to go into Dell Tech. I know you love Dell Tech. Not a sponsor. but you go into Dell Tech and you do your work plan. And
for those of you who don't know what Dell Tech is, I don't even.
So anyway, you do your work plan, and so I take all of the people who are working on my project, and I basically plan out their week. If we've got a 40-hour week and they're 100%, they're 100% to our project, then I'll put in 40 hours per week. Well, then you go in and you can actually track, what is your planned hours versus what your actual hours are. Now, you can then see that there's like this, okay, you planned, and here's your plan curve. And your plan curve shows, like all of the hours as you're ramping up through projects and all that other stuff. And then it shows like the actual hours that are being applied to it. Some people, might have a lower curve that's under the 40 hours. Some people may have like this huge mountainous Everest level spike in it and stuff like that. And it completely throws things off. So you're literally asking people to, because of the way that we planned it, rather than looking at it and saying, can we get however many buildings done or a building done in this amount of time? And then you plan it all out and you're like, well, that's really pushing it. We really could be able to do this more effectively, that we're not killing everybody if we added another, 4, 6, 8 weeks to a project. Like, okay, well, try to compress that time and just push everybody harder.
Well, yeah, and then like understaff the project now, then throw a bunch of bodies at it later. I mean, that's a recipe for success, right?
Of course. I mean, the best thing to do is that, when you're in like your crunch time and you have absolutely no open time to be able to onboard people, tell them about the project, who has never seen the project before in their life, and actually effectively be able to help you with your, documentation or whatever.
But I think we can comfortably say that is the business model for 80%, 90% of the firms.
Probably. I'll read you one more. And this is well said. I'll even say Grant Norby, well said. Because realize that nobody values my time as much as my wife and children did, and I owed them to be a present father. They never signed up to sacrifice that time together. I had no right to take it from them. I give work a really effective 40, possibly 50 hours. Beyond that, maybe plan better.
Mm-hmm.
Boom. Like,
boom, mic drop.
Exactly. Like, well said. Because
I think there's that, because oh man, so many thoughts and emotions, because typically the people who are leading don't have the same life issues you do, right? And so when I've got 4 teenagers and you've got 2 kids who have graduated college, we're not in the same lifestyle. And yet there's an expectation that my hours are just as available as your hours. I see that all the time.
Actually, the ones that piss me off the most is when you have, like, say, a principal or somebody like that who has, kid responsibilities and stuff. And they're like, oh, well, I got to leave at 5 so I can, go and take care of my kids or pick them up from school and all that other stuff. And that's great. You should. I mean, absolutely should. But don't ask your single employees to stay later to cover you and, do the work that because of your poor planning. How about say, hey, let's go ahead and, hey, I got to leave. Make sure you guys, wrap up and head out now too. I mean, that's leadership. So I want to share you this little anecdote so we were talking with our fire and life safety engineer on the project I'm working on. And he was traveling. And so he was working out of an architecture firm in Copenhagen. And so he was just, sharing, he was like using the, one of their small conference rooms as kind of like his little home base while he was working with them on their projects and all that other stuff. And I was on a call with him, and I think it was like 4:45, 4:50 p.m. his time. And he's like, hey, everyone, I just got to let you know that I'm going to need to be wrapping this up in the next couple of minutes because they're locking up the office and kicking us all out at 5. I'm like, wait, what?
That's how you do it.
Like, wait, I'm sorry. I'm not sure I actually heard or understood that.
That's like how normal business runs, right?
So they're saying, let's finish, like, we're only paying you to be here till 5. We don't really want you to be here beyond 5. So guess what we're going to do? We're going to close up and kick you out.
Right. The store is now closing. Please head to the nearest exit.
So it was funny. It was like, so then I had this like pause in my voice. Of course, I was trying to pick my job off the ground, but he was just like, Cormac, are you still there? And I'm like, I'm sorry.
Lord.
He's like, I'm sorry. I'm wiping the tears out of my eyes.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like, that's like the most beautiful thing that I've ever heard in my life. I've never lived it, but it is beautiful.
I mean, this is bad news for businesses, though, right? This whole movement. This should not have to be a movement at all. That's the
It,
thing.
that is the thing. That is the biggest problem. It's like, why is there such a term as quiet quitting? Why do it's just like, oh, I hustle. Like you, you're. It's not hustle. I mean, doing your job isn't hustling. It is. I mean, I don't know. I've always had this weird kind of, I don't know, disdain for that
You're
term.
allergic to this word, yes.
I
I can
am I
tell.
am allergic to the term. We know we've heard on numerous occasions my work ethic. I kill myself in in many cases on projects to make sure that they get done. I am not the living proof of the quiet quitter.
No, but
I,
you totally get it.
but I totally get it. And I do not, and I swear I would prefer nobody follow my example. I would prefer that everybody give that really effective 41 hours. I mean, really, to be quite honest with you, even like 40 hours, divide, 8 hours, divide that by three. You've got 8 hours of, if you want a really healthy life, you got your 8 hours of work, you got 8 hours of sleep, and then you've got 8 hours to yourself to just enjoy your life.
And your
And
responsibilities, yeah.
yeah, and I'm asking you to sacrifice that for me and my project. Let me plan better.
If people are doing, if they're highly engaged, like let's just call it employee engagement, if you want to put an HR term on it, right? People are going to do better. Like and which means, what does that mean? That means the business is more profitable. And so this to me again comes back to leadership, and the most people that I see have an inability to step away from the steering wheel and work on the business because they're just so busy working in the business, and they're doing that inefficiently, right? Like there
Mm-hmm.
are better ways to do things. This is something that I'm researching because I'm doing a keynote for AIA Kansas's 100-year anniversary. And it's like, what's the next 100 years like, right? Well,
Yeah.
what's the next 5 years like? What architects can't plan their way out of a paper bag, right? So,
With
how,
both ends cut open.
yeah. So what's the next 5 years, smarty pants, right? And it's what's really interesting to me is that there is so much tech happening. But just riffing on the efficiency word that I used, there is so much tech happening, but and this is kind of the crux of my talk is this: there's innovation happening by innovators, but it's happening on top of other innovations. So this curve is kind of exponential. It's like up and to the right, hockey stick style, right? Big time.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's adoption. And like adoption is just like a flat line, right? It's like I'm finding sources that are saying, like if I look back through it, it's like 50% of firms who said they were going to adopt BIM in 2017 still haven't done it, right? It's like it's big numbers, right? And it's like BIM's been around for 25 years. I don't know, a long time. And I understand it. Like I can't just like say shame on you, because like if you're early, you're going to spend a lot of money. There's a lot of dead ends. There's a lot of false starts, and you don't know what's going to work and what isn't. You have to develop standards. You got to build the tools. You got to build the resources, and you get to be first to do that, which means you don't get to build off anybody else's work, right? So you're going to spend more. So on one side, you have first mover advantage. You get to reap some benefits of being an early adopter of innovation. On the other hand, you're going to spend more doing it because companies that waited 10 or 20 years to adopt BIM, like somebody already forged that path, and you get to kind of build off of where they started, right? You get to take the advantage of the things that they did ahead of you, and it's way safer, right, to adopt later. But at the same time, like these two curves on the graph are farther and farther apart. So because the number of innovators and the number of adopters are on completely different levels, right? There might be a smaller set of innovators, but again, like the definition of innovation is it's happening on top of other innovation. So it's just skyrocketing, and adoption in AEC in particular is very low. How do we close that gap? Right. And so that's the kind of thing that leadership should be focusing on in architecture firms, not at the drafting board, not at the CAD, not on the BIM. Like part of that is mentoring other people to the business of architecture and how to think like an architect, how to be an architect, how to be a great architect. And part of that is where are we headed and how are we going to get there? How are we going to get adoption to happen of this technology so that we can get the work done in the 40 hours rather than the 80?
But don't you think that the biggest disconnect of that is that say the firm owners or the mentors that are trying to enact change in the profession are still going about it in a very old way of doing things by, it's just like, yeah, that's great that you know all of this stuff, all of this technology that's supposed to be making us better, but I still need you to be 40 hours billable.
Mm. Oh yeah, no, this
And
is one of those things where you can't have somebody doing both things.
right.
You
Yeah.
have to dedicate people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it definitely goes back to reinforcing your argument that, with, adopting the change is going to take a very concerted effort to change your thinking to adopt the change.
Across the organization, not
Exactly.
just one person's
Exactly.
responsibility who also has to work on projects.
Right. Because, I mean, say here I am managing, a project right now that's got 8 buildings, and but then also it's just like, yeah, but we also want to do an animation, but we also want to do, these are VR walkthroughs and all this other stuff. Can you make sure that we do that too, as well as make sure that everybody's, pulling their 40-hour billables on all of this stuff? It's just like, that's not how it works.
I heard of this great term. It's attributed to Steve Blank. Is the name, but calls something that some firms do innovation theater. I love it. Right, which is like, oh no, we do digital DFMA.
Yes.
We do all these things. We do generative design and yeah, it's like we put it in our marketing materials is what we mean, right? And it's hilarious. I read that for the first time. I thought it was awesome.
Oh, it's a great term because that actually I love that now. I mean,
instead of actual innovation. So I'm going to put a link to that article. It's on Harvard Business Review, but I thought it was appropriate.
Oh yeah. I mean, and then it's just like, you have a client come in, you do the dog and pony show. It's just like, show them the VR.
Yeah. Get them excited.
Exactly. It's just like, hold on, I'm too busy dusting off the machine that we use to do that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's good stuff. Somehow we got here in the conversation. Well, good luck with your projects this week, because I know you're going to take time for yourself and you're going to have a well-balanced life and you're going to, take that mental health seriously.
Deep breath, let it out. Oh,
good luck.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks for listening. This show is part of the Gable Media Podcast Network. See all the shows at gablemedia.com. That's GABLMEDIA.com. You can help support what we're doing here by leaving a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts to help get the word out, and don't forget to share it with your friends. We'd love to hear from you, so leave a comment on the website at archispeakpodcast.com, where you can find our entire catalog of shows. Talk to you soon.